I'm a contestant on a reality show called Origin of Love, and elimination is final. I'm a fool who hungered for fame and fortune, and that kind of belly-rumbling desperation blinds a person to red flags. A £500,000 prize. Would you hoist your nose at that? I doubt it. I would ask for somebody to send help, but I don't even know this island's name. I don't know anything about this place, other than the horror it hides. That was one of the conditions for applicants. No questions. They confiscated our technology on day one, but I concealed my phone in my top. And I hope, by revealing the truth of this insidious island, I will, at the very least, be able to prevent these subhumans from claiming more lives. The organisation is called D-Minus Entertainment. Why is there no longer any trace of them online? Welcome to Origin of Love, the producer, Mr. Wilson, ecstatically projected. When you board this vessel, you will be ferried to a private island. Once there, you will embark on a 3-month journey towards finding love. Real love. Biological bonds. Nothing fabricated. We know who is truly suited to whom. The island knows. There were 8 contestants, and we were each given a briefing before meeting one another. Matthew, 27 years old, a business consultant from Birmingham, loves climbing, weak-willed. Becky, that's me, 28 years old, a statistician from Bolton, spends her free time playing guitar, breaks hearts. Callum, 25 years old, a personal trainer from London, raves every weekend, fathered 10 children with 7 women, doesn't contact any of them. Kofi, 31 years old, a dentist from London, enjoys watching horror films. Parents were arms dealers. Billy Joe, 20 years old, a social media influencer from Cornwall, tennis enthusiast, a fibber. Han, 35 years old, a civil engineer from Cambridge, parties in Ibiza, skips quality checks at work, endangering lives. Zach, 24 years old, a real estate agent from Cardiff, takes pride in finding homes for people, takes more than a fair share of their money, too. Gracie, 22 years old, a computer science student from Bristol, dreams of making video games, kleptomaniac. I didn't mention anything about breaking hearts in my interview with the show's producers, and I think it would be safe to assume that none of the others revealed their secrets either. When we arrived at the villa, I spent the first hour eyeing every one of the cameras, which were clumsily hidden by shrubbery and fence panels. All of this is for entertainment, I reminded myself. It wasn't about romance, as the producers had purported. I knew that before the cameras even started rolling. And I was right, but I still didn't know what the show was trying to achieve. You cannot truly fall in love until you know a person's darkness, Mr. Wilson explained, leading us into the villa. With your cards on the table, the experiment begins. Love may freely blossom. Over the following weeks, Mr. Wilson's prophecy was quickly proven correct. Biological bonds, as he would say, were indeed forged. 4 couples emerged. The 8 of us had found our perfect matches, and with the promise of somebody earning a staggering amount of money, this felt like the world's greatest show. Even the losers were winners, as cliched as that sounds. We'd found love. What greater prize could there be? Yet, in spite of that, I didn't feel right. There was something sinisterly orchestrated about the show, but I was struggling to put my finger on it. I despised the producers for their beady eyes, which hungrily observed love-struck guinea pigs, but I didn't fight my feelings for long. I kept gravitating towards Matthew. And I wasn't thinking about the grand prize. Screw the £500,000. I was, and still am, in love. In spite of all that has happened. I just find you irresistible, Becky, Matthew told me with a smile. Then again, I am weak-willed, apparently. Well, I'll try not to break your heart, Matty. I'm known for that, after all, I sarcastically replied, and the two of us laughed. I know, we were sweet. Last night, however, this run-of-the-mill reality show transformed into a hellscape that I'm still telling myself must be an elaborate ruse, though I'm not sure how the producers would have put together such a horrifying hoax. I will try my best to condense events and upload this message before they discover me. Elimination time, Mr. Wilson announced. Only one couple can win the grand prize, and it is time to thin out the herd. Today, a couple will leave the island. Has there been a public vote? Han nervously asked. No, the producer answered, chuckling and directly eyeballing one of the cameras. The island will test which of our couples has the weakest connection. Follow me, contestants. We weren't given any instructions. We were led from the villa into a nearby forest, and the setting sun was obscured by a canopy of leaves above us. 8 contestants, led by Mr. Wilson, disappeared into the darkness. But as the grinning man guided us deeper into the forest, he began to light torches on either side of the dirt path, offering a sliver of lighting. Matthew held my hand and beamed at me. We've got this one in the bag, he said. I don't know, I whispered, shuddering. I've got this horrible feeling in my stomach, Matty. Was it the apple pie we had for dinner, babe? Billy Joe asked. No, Billy. Never mind, I replied. Silence, Mr. Wilson bellowed. His voice erupted so suddenly that the 8 of us instantly ceased chattering. We found ourselves in a woodland clearing, encircled by torches and cameras on tripods. Our enigmatic host adopted an unsettling energy, finally revealing what had been burgeoning beneath his disingenuous smile. Private viewers, he announced to one of the cameras. You have suffered weeks of preamble, but now the time is upon us. Which of these couples is meant to be? It is a primal decision, left to nature. Left to him. The island shall show the way. The island shall show the way, voices chanted in unison from the forest. A heaviness filled my insides as I watched Mr. Wilson walk backwards, slipping beyond the tree line with a malevolent grin on his face, joining the voices in the darkness. Feeling something beyond fear, I squeezed Matthew's hand until I felt it might break. When I looked at him, all colour had leaked from the boy's face. The same could be said of every contestant, but true terror struck us when the ground beneath our feet began to quake. Choral singing erupted from all sides of our blackened surroundings, and from the dirt in the clearing, arms began to emerge. Dozens of disembodied limbs, bending into painful configurations. I felt frozen fingers working up my left calf, numbing my flesh. Without pause, I looked down at the decaying limb that was attempting to pull my body into the ground below. As I screamed, Matthew wrapped his arms around my waist and started tugging. I slammed my foot into Hell's abhorrent arm, and it buckled, freeing me. What is happening? Gracie cried, swatting a rotting hand that was pursuing her. Callum, what? Gracie's supposed boyfriend had instinctively sprinted towards Billy Joe, Zach's partner, pulling the girl away from a ghoulish limb, leaving his girlfriend behind. Before Zach or Gracie managed to say anything about their partner's telling displays of character, their bodies snapped backwards. Each of the spurned partners assumed a crab-like pose, and the two spines broke in a ghastly instant. The crumpled crustaceans began to sink into the ground, and my shrieks of terror were drowned out by those of Billy Joe. Callum restrained her as she tried to reach Zach, her limp, lifeless boyfriend, who was enveloped by a growing mound of arms. Skeletal fingers dug into his body, welcoming him to whatever nightmarish world lay beneath the soil. I watched in unfathomable fright as the same fate befell Gracie. In a direful display that defied all reason, she took one final, painful gasp whilst suffocating in the dirt. How she was still alive, with her back mangled so horribly out of shape, I do not know. All I know is that it filled me with fear to imagine meeting such an end. Or worse, not meeting an end. Instead, meeting whatever rests beneath the surface of the island. Him. After the heartbroken abandoned partners were devoured by the ground, Callum successfully hauled to the bawling Billy Joe from the wretched forest clearing. And as the arms returned to the soil, the cult members emerged from the trees, led by Mr. Wilson. Unable to comprehend what we had just experienced, the 6 remaining islanders shakily followed the producer and his cult members back to the villa. We were dazed and detached from reality. No longer contestants, but prisoners. The island takes part. It shows the black, reveals a heart. It takes the slack. The cult members sang together. Congratulations to our new couple, Mr. Wilson gleefully said. From the very beginning, our viewers sensed the connection between Billy Joe and Callum. Sometimes it takes extreme duress to out the truth. Callum, you prove that you never really loved Gracie at all. You only ever had eyes for Billy Joe. Well done. Well done. Callum sobbed as the producer left the villa, locking the doors behind him. We spent the past day trying to break free, but it's a fortified compound. I don't see any way of escaping. And everybody's been panicking about a note delivered through the front door, which read, "Elimination on Friday. Form a bond to stay safe. True love always prevails on the island." I scurried to the bathroom to recover the hidden phone from my bikini top. Weeks ago, Gracie used some technical wizardry to help me access the private Wi-Fi router used by D- employees. We know they have an office building next to the villa. Gracie was happy to keep my contraband phone a secret because it meant that she could use the internet to message her folks. She was a lovely girl. I want to tell her family what happened to her, but I don't know how to begin. I don't even know how to explain it to myself. I just keep thinking about Friday. This is my second and final recording. As you might imagine, everything soured after the horrifying demise of Zach and Gracie. They weren't even a couple, mind you. They were the spare parts left from the union of Callum and Billy Joe. So I suppose Mr. Wilson's elimination rule had always been a lie. Individuals were at risk, not just couples. I kept replaying that awful night in my mind. Kept remembering the way Callum abandoned Gracie. A person's true coarseness shows in such situations. Speaking of which, the fight for survival corrupted us more than the fight for wealth ever would. As the minutes passed in our prison, we started to fall apart. Callum and Billy Joe should sacrifice themselves, Han said. It's their fault that Zach and Gracie are dead. What? Billy Joe gasped. I didn't ask Callum to save me. Oh, bug off, Han scoffed. We all knew you two liked each other. Why did the island even take Zach and Gracie? It should have... Kofi began, trailing off. No, go on, Callum pressed, scowling. Finish your sentence, Kofi. Maybe you and Han should be taken next. You two make a crap couple. In nearly a month, all you've done is hold hands and peck each other on the lips. Doesn't look like love to me. Oh, are we moving slower than you and Billy Joe? Have you screwed each other already or something? Han asked. No wonder you've got 7 kids, Callum. Matthew stepped between the two men before a brawl commenced. Meanwhile, I was contemplating the implications of a second note that had been slipped under our front door. The note that had instigated such a violent outburst. Breaking rules comes with a punishment. Elimination Day has been pushed to Tuesday, and due to unfortunate events, we will be wrapping up the show sooner than expected. This will be the final elimination. Our winning couple will be crowned at midnight. Tuesday had arrived, and fear was gripping the group. As I suspected, Mr. Wilson and the other sinister minds behind D- were well aware of the last message I uploaded. What other rule break could have provoked such a drastic change of schedule? However, if you've come here hoping for answers about this cultist company, you may leave disappointed. Now, after everything that has happened, I know less than before. It is time, Mr. Wilson roared. Around 11 in the evening, the malignant man burst into the villa, and the 6 of us leapt up. We were half asleep, huddling in the lounge area. I think we'd all been prepared to attempt an impressive escape when the doors opened. But the sight of the fearsome cult leader and his dozens of followers quickly quashed that dream. Please, Mr. Wilson, Billy Joe begged. Please, Mr. Wilson, the man mocked, side-eyeing one of the cameras with a diabolical smile on his face. I know your brain is the size of a peanut, Billy Joe, but try to keep up. I am not the one who passes judgment. We all serve the island. I put my arm around the poor girl's shoulders as we were shepherded from the villa to what I assumed must be certain doom. The mass of Mr. Wilson's followers surrounded us, preventing our escape, and I prepared to be left back to the disturbing pit of corpse-like arms beneath the forest floor. However, Mr. Wilson led us to the beach. He had a new test in store. When we reached the circle of tall torches in the sand, I wondered what fresh torture awaited us. It's going to be okay, Matthew lied, clinging to my hand. The final is here. We have 6 contestants, Mr. Wilson loudly announced to the surrounding cameras. A month of love draws to a swift close. I know, I hear you. We're all disappointed about the shortness of this series. But love doesn't take long to blossom, viewers. It's pre-programmed. It is a primal truth, one with an origin beyond our comprehension. There is something that science cannot explain about the bond between two perfect mates. However, the island knows. It knows us better than we know ourselves, and it is ready to set mankind back on its rightful course. No more ill-suited pairings. Pure, naturally selected generations shall reign on this earth. It all begins on this island with origin of love.
Origin of love,
the cult chanted. Two of you are meant to be together, Mr. Wilson jubilantly informed us. We don't know which two. Every watcher has a favourite couple, but only the island knows. Who's watching this? I fearfully wondered.
Only the island knows,
the followers repeated from the darkness. So, tonight, the finalists compete for more than £500,000. And they also compete for the future of humanity. Let the island decide, Mr. Wilson screamed. Decaying arms did not emerge from the sand beneath our feet, and somehow that frightened me more. Perhaps I would have been comforted by a hell that I could have anticipated. The devil I already knew. Large walls of sand suddenly erupted upwards, forming a dome around the edge of the torches. The 6 of us were trapped within the beach's cage, and I shrieked as the floating grains of sand started to swallow Kofi. The wall devoured her flesh. Slowly, excruciatingly. Kofi! Han cried, as he attempted to retrieve his partner from the wall of sand that slowly stripped the skin from her bones. The levitating grains began to tear into Han's flesh too. The two of them screeched as the whites of their skeletons started to show. Like their love, this end is slow and dull, Mr. Wilson bellowed from beyond the sand dome. But Kofi, lover of horror, meets a fitting end, wouldn't you say? The producer's voice carried over the eerie screams of the couple. As the pair began to collapse into bloody pools of their flayed flesh, their screams fizzled into whispers. Eventually, the skinned lovers lay still on the beach. Matthew shivered uncontrollably, and I could tell that he was striving to prove Mr. Wilson wrong. He didn't want to appear weak-willed, but we all looked weak in that moment. Which of our finalists will go the distance? Mr. Wilson asked. The island will now choose our winning couple. With a deranged glint in his eyes, Callum sprinted across the sand towards us. Matthew plucked his hand from mine and stepped forwards, shielding me from the maniac who was barrelling blindly onwards. But then the 4 of us stood still. A gargantuan grumbling disturbed the sand below. Without warning, Callum started plummeting into a darkened chasm that was forming in the sand. His yelp of agony rapidly abated as he fell to whatever fate awaited him. The hole spread outwards, and Billy Joe yelled as her leg tumbled into the opening. She managed to yank herself out of the hole, but I gawped in terror at the bloody stump where her lower calf had been. Something in the darkness had feasted on her leg. I skirted around the outer edge of the sand cavity, heading towards my friend, and Matthew followed. It wasn't the screaming legless girl that horrified me. Not the death of Callum. Not even the corpses of Han and Kofi, which the chasm greedily plucked from the sand. It was the thing I saw when I peered, for the briefest moment, over the edge of the pit. Nothing. Nothing itself. An absence for which no word exists. An abyss that saw my very soul. My sense of self. It had no eyes. It had no features. Nothing discernible, anyway. But that nothingness was something. And I say that with absolute certainty. Something saw me. An ancient entity beneath the island. A nightmare no human should ever witness. Something our eyes do not know how to see. Whilst Matthew and I dragged Billy Joe away from the edge of the hole, the dome of sand began to crumble, filling the hellish pit. And no more than a few moments later, the three of us found ourselves facing a beach littered with cult members. Illuminated by torches, Mr. Wilson's face no longer appeared sinister at all. He looked happy. Genuinely happy. And that, I realised, was in fact more sinister than seeing a malevolent smile. "Congratulations," he cried. "The island has left one couple standing. Becky and Matthew. You are this year's winners. The Origin of Love champions. Your primal bond has prevailed." The crowd began chanting that awful, dissonant, wordless song as I cradled Billy Joe's dying body in my arms. The cult then moved as a unified presence towards the sea edge, and Mr. Wilson walked over to us. He eyed Billy Joe, the pale-faced social media influencer who lay in my arms. Callum was a blackness, and he has returned to the void which created him. Billy Joe remains, but the island does not save individuals, I am afraid, the producer explained. Only love is worthy. Only love. Speechless, the three of us watched in terror as the cult members boarded the boat. Billy Joe weakly urged Matthew and me to find a way onto the vessel before it was too late. But we didn't attempt to flee. How would we have overpowered the hundreds of D- cultists? The ship set sail, leaving Billy Joe, Matthew, and me behind. It is currently Thursday afternoon. Nearly 2 days have passed. When the generator runs out of fuel, the router will switch off, and I won't be able to connect to the internet again. I suppose these may be my final words to the world. I'll try to make them count. Billy Joe quickly succumbed to her injuries. I keep trying to shake the phantom sensation of her body in my arms. I still feel the weight of her twitching body. Still physically feel her life fading away. There is no horror quite like that.
If it had been a normal reality show, do you think I would have won?
Billy Joe weakly whispered, smiling. I grinned, wiping my tears.
With your banging body and double-barreled name? Of course. You were born to win a reality show.
A solitary tear trickled down the girl's face, but she continued to smile.
I just wish I had more time, Becky.
Something about Billy Joe's final words put the true terror of the island into perspective. So many lives extinguished. For what? Some prehistoric power that determines mankind's mating suitability. Mr. Wilson may believe that, but I don't. This island is evil. That's it. There is no method to the madness. We can dilute that terrifying fact by assigning meaning to the thing that lurks beneath the dirt. After all, that's what humans do best. We explain things. At some point, however, one must accept that there might be no way to explain this. We may never understand it. The island is a cancer. It feasts. It doesn't care about love. And I may have won the show, but should I be grateful that my life was spared? As I speak, long after the other night's events, my eyes remain fixed on Matthew, the other survivor. He's still staring at the ocean, though the D- boat disappeared beyond the horizon 2 days ago. The man is contemplating ending things. I sense that. Call it intuition, our primal bond, whatever. Still, I'm not upset with him for thinking that way. In fact, his escape plan might be the only one we have.